Welcome back for the second hour of Citizen Extra live on Citizen TV. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. I'll be carrying on shortly with my guests here in studio. They did not realize we were on a break. They've carried on with these heated discussions even while we were on that break. I'll give them a chance to share some of that in just a bit. But for now, NASA leader Raila Odinga over the weekend spoke about IBC CEO Ezra Chiloba and asked that he step aside or be removed for the election that is coming up to be viewed as free, fair, credible, transparent, verifiable. Let's listen to his statement and then something else that the Deputy President also spoke about after that.
Chiloba hawezi kuwa mchungaji kura zetu. Tunasema Chiloba na wenzake watoke, washtakiwe, wapelekwe jela. Wangapi wanasema waende jela nione kwa Chiloba must go. Sio? Chiloba. Kwa hivyo Uhuru asiseme kila mara Raila hayuko tayari.
Mtu anaitwa Chiloba. Tafadhali. We want to tell you. We are coming for you. If by next week you will have not left office, we are coming for you.
Chiloba ametumwa. Chiloba ni kijana tu ametumwa. Mwenye makosa mwenyewe ni Uhuru, na tunataka Uhuru adhibiwe kabisa.
Wakisema wembe ni ule ule, na sisi nasema Mungu ni yule yule. Yule Mungu aliwafanya mahakama kuu kuona vile hao waliiba.
Well, the NASA brigade there, not mincing words, Chiloba must go is the statement that they put out in that rally, I believe, in Kajiado that happened yesterday. Let's now also listen in to the Deputy President in yesterday's interview on Game Plan 2017 when he talked about how Kenya has a certain pattern where every election cycle they remove those who are leading election bodies and find themselves in the same position after another 5 years where another call for leaders or those who are heading electoral bodies need to be removed again, and he was asking why this trend must keep going on. Let's listen to what he had to say yesterday in that interview.
And for your information, let me ask you, Hussein. We removed Kivuitu because our competitors did not like the outcome of that election. We removed Isaac Hassan because our competitors did not like the outcome of that election. We are going to remove Chiloba because, really?
Although in
does this country belong to a section of Kenya that they are going to dictate to everybody that unless it is their way, they will remove people from where they are sitting?
Okay.
That is not correct.
Okay.
Well, before I allow my panelists here to weigh in on those sentiments yesterday, both from Kajiado and of course from the Deputy President here in studio, let's cross over to State House, where the President is set to have several meetings throughout the course of the day. This is the latest information that I have from our team on the ground there. The President will first meet Ukambani leaders, which is probably what we are seeing on the screen now. Then, members of the KEPSA roundtable meeting with members of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance will take place after that. And finally, the President will then meet Bungoma leaders, probably in the afternoon at State House. So 3 meetings set for today. First with Ukambani leaders, probably led by businessman Peter Mudoka, for whom several Ukambani leaders over the weekend endorsed as the person who will lead the campaigns for Jubilee in Ukambani. Thereafter, a meeting with the members of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, a roundtable meeting will take place. And finally, a meeting with Bungoma political leaders at State House. That is the information that we have so far. When we get more updates, we will let you know. But for today, the President and his team will not be out on the campaign trail. Rather, they are set to hold several meetings in State House, which, some would say is a form of campaign, a strategic campaign, nevertheless. First with leaders from the Kamba region. Thereafter, a roundtable meeting, with members of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. And finally, a meeting with Bungoma leaders. With 35 days and counting to the August 8th polls, this being part of a strategy to ensure that Jubilee Party gets support in all regions. We will update you as soon as we know what NASA's plan is over the next couple of days and what their campaign itinerary is. We'll give you those updates as and when we get them. But for now, we carry on with our discussion in studio. Big talking points here. Cynthia, Chiloba must go on one hand, but on the other hand, Deputy President asking, must everyone go every 5 years? Must there be a sacrificial person in the electoral body every 5 years for us to feel that we've held credible elections?
Well, every 5 years is the election cycle that we have given ourselves from the Constitution, and every 5 years we want to be evaluating if they delivered. If they delivered, of course, their accolades, and if there are flaws in any way, then you want to make changes, and this is the electoral reform that we are pursuing to give us a better outcome. Because I think when we started this conversation, I think Muthuma had also alluded on now what percentage really should make it a credible election. And so each time you're making...
Do you have the answer for that?
I don't have the answer for this. Okay. It's a conversation that all Kenyans should have. Just how much... I mean, we are going to have an election on October 17th. The Deputy President says it's not going to be perfect. Of course it's not going to be perfect in everything that we... And we are so used to mediocre. Should our leaders also be setting these standards of mediocre in everything that we do? Or should we be aiming for the highest, and if there were anything that went wrong, then try and rectify it? If then the cycle gives us every 5 years to then evaluate, maybe we need to be evaluating immediately after the election and not now start changing personnel within that institution on the 5th year of delivering an election. That needs to be done much earlier. But unfortunately, then the timetables now also, I think that's something that we're going to be looking at, are changing. And this is now the voter education that we have right now. What we're hearing from Jubilee, what we're hearing from NASA. When NASA says these are the people that messed up the election on August 8th, we don't want them.
They need to be prosecuted.
They need to be prosecuted. And
what NASA is saying.
When you find them speaking, the officials that are being referred to, they say, if I'm found culpable, then I'll leave office. Otherwise, I'm here to stay, and I'm sitting pretty until then. And I mean, is that what we want 35 days into an election? Really, we're in for an election that will be 30%. I would tell you.
That's what you feel.
I feel it will be 30%, and we're going to be stuck, even as Mark had alluded to this, that maybe if NASA would win, then we will go to the Supreme Court. We're going to be stuck in this electoral cycle time warp for
That's the right word, electoral cycle time warp.
It's like a time warp that we're stuck in, and we need to move out of it, not to move on. Of course, everybody wants to move on. If we want to move on, then let's get it right. We need to get it right now, and IBC must be seen to be getting it right by moving those personnel that are not doing their duties according to what they have been told to do, their terms of reference. Of course, if they're not meeting that expectation, then they need to be moved out of those places of responsibility and new people put in there.
Gabriel, if these people are removed, as Cynthia has alluded to, will that then convince everyone that the election will be free and fair? Will that automatically sort the issues that we saw on August 8th?
I do not think so. I do not think so. And this is not the time to start playing around with commissioners and the secretariat. And let me tell you why I believe in this so much. We are actually back to where we were in 2007 with ECK. And if you look at it very closely, it is ECK that actually made this country almost to burn, primarily because of outside interference. The late Kivuitu was unable to deal with outside interference well. IBC in 2017, they've also been taken for the same wild goose chase. They are in court today, they are out. And what has happened now is moving along, you've now had like what you're hearing politicians say, and this is where I think it gets hazy. When they say get that one out, that one, that out, you pigeonhole an entire commission. All right, and you say this person needs to be here, this doesn't have to be here, and people will ask. And that's why it is good. I always like taking notes. Why are you so hell-bent on Chiloba? What has he done? Yet you've not been able to provide. The memo we are talking about, I believe honestly, and I went down to write notes, was not written for Chiloba. It was for public consumption. And for a chairman to do that, he must realize one thing. And I think on this one, I think we need to be on the same level. He cannot exist, the chairman. That's why I said, and I repeat it again, he's not a lone ranger. He cannot exist alone. It is it must work as a well-oiled machine. It is a commission. You don't have a chairman alone and commissioners and the secretariat. No, it is one commission, and that's why we call it IEBC. It's one commission which must deliver a process to Kenyans. That is number one. Number two, among the notes that I was writing, is this. When the chairman talks about the secretariat, you want to divorce certain elements. You have already failed. The questions he's asking now, or what he was asking yesterday in that memo? Those are the questions he should have asked before we went into an election. We have bought a number
Maybe he was assured that everything is
we
well.
have bought. No, you must know. I mean, this is your boat. You're the captain. You must know the direction and how you want to go. You are in the helm of our leadership, and that's why we say when things happen in a country, whether or not it's happening in the domain of the president, he is the leader, and he must take responsibility. So must Chebukati. And that's why I'm saying he should have waited until he had that crisis meeting for him to be able to call shots the way he's doing. Because at this point, Wahiga, what he's going to do, he's actually going to allow some of his or the people in that commission to actually be pointed in bad light. And it's very wrong when you hear people starting having their names mentioned, yet probably there's nothing they've done. So that's one thing the chairman must realize. The third thing which I think finally, the thing which I think must come out clearly, they all signed affidavits. All right?
Yes.
Would you then say, if what we have seen, are we saying they lied, even to an extent to the court of law?
By affidavits to the Supreme Court.
Exactly.
Yes.
Number two, as a chairman, you may recall NASA went to court and said that there were forms that the chairman did not sign. Oh, no. There were forms that the chairman signed which did not have security features. As a chairman, surely.
Had he not noticed?
Those were there. There are so many things that came out. But the point I'm trying to drive across is this. It must work like a well-oiled machine. The chairman must protect his people. That's what you do in a campaign.
I need to cut you off
there. The chairman must protect his people.
Mike and Mark, I'll come to you shortly. We need to cross over to Nyeri County. Now, even as we talk about IBC matters, we also need to take a look at some of the other big stories developing across the country. What we know right now is that hopes for an end to the countrywide nurses strike actually faded last night after the Council of Governors pledged that they will sack health workers starting today. We also know that health workers were expected to start protests, public protest today, even as the nurses strike has gone over 94 days, I believe, beyond that actually. Very worrying. Let's now get an update from Martin Munene, who is in Nyeri County. What we know is that the Council of Governors has instructed governors to send show cause letters to the nurses and hire their replacements in the course of this week. However, the national government has warned county chiefs against illegal mass sackings. Let's get an update from what is actually happening on the ground. We start in Nyeri County, where Martin Munene is on standby. Martin, have the nurses gone on strike? What are they telling you? Kindly update us.
All right, thank you very much, Wahiga Maura. And indeed, I have talked to the officials that are leading the nurses, and they insist that the nurses strike is still very much on in this county. And right now, as we speak, I am at the Nyeri Referral Hospital, and there's a lot of activities actually going on. And I've talked also to one of the nurses here, and they say that most of the nurses are actually at work, and it is the officials who are on strike. But then I've also talked again to the officials and told them that some of their members are saying that they're not on strike, and they've insisted that they're actually on their way to Nairobi currently to go and meet their national leaders so that they can actually agree on a way forward. And so as it stands right now, the standoff still stands between the county government and the nurses officials, insisting that they will not go back to work until all the demands are met. And the county government is insisting that they need to go back, especially the officials, and they say that a lot of activity has not been affected really, because they insist that the nurses are back, saying that the officials are taking this thing politically, and it's taking a political angle, and so that is why the officials are not back at work. But the officials are saying no. They're saying that the strike it has no political angle whatsoever, and they're just demanding what is rightfully theirs. And so we will just continue updating you on the same, and actually try to investigate and see what is really going on and what actually is the truth, because the county government insists that the nurses are working, and the officials say that the nurses are still on strike.
Martin, I trust you can still hear me. Thank you for letting us know a little bit about that. I also want to find out, in line with what the Council of Governors has stated, do you expect nurses in your county to begin public protest today? Have you heard word of whether they'll do any public demonstrations or anything of the sort? Okay.
Wahiga, I don't expect any protests today, especially because I talked to the officials and they have said that they're actually en route to Nairobi to go and meet the national officials, and maybe after that meeting with the national officials, then maybe they can actually tell us the way forward. But as it stands right now, they are traveling to Nairobi to meet their national counterparts and maybe leaders from other regions across the country, maybe and channel a way forward. But as it stands right now, some nurses are working and the officials are not working, but we don't expect them to go on the streets. Maybe if they do, not today.
Thank you so much, Martin, for that update. And for letting us know what is happening in regards to the nurses' strike there in Nyeri County. Some are working, some nurses are working, some are not. But of course, the insistence by those he's spoken to that the nurses' strike is still going on in Nyeri County, and some leaders of the nurses' unions there are making their way to Nairobi to meet the national leadership to chart the way forward after the threat by the Council of Governors that they will sack all health workers this week, those who are on strike. I believe we'll get more updates from other counties in just a bit, but for now, let me allow Mark Bichachi also to weigh in on this, even as we continue to ask ourselves, is it that once officials go, that the process will then seem free, fair, and credible? When we're talking about the IEBC calls by NASA, Chiloba must go, a call by the Deputy President that must we always sacrifice officials to prove that a process has been fair. Can you respond now to that?
My answer comes from a very strange place. There's a guy called George Bush Jr. Okay? George Bush Jr. was considered one of the American presidents with the lowest IQ. He could not say obstetrician with a straight face. We used to make fun of him because he couldn't pronounce right. Today, Donald Trump, if you remove the term great and greatly and bad from the dictionary, he would not be able to make a sentence because his vocabulary is very limited. But yet these people have been able to be presidents of the strongest, most powerful nations in this world. The reason for that is that a nation is not about individuals. Institutions are not about individuals. They are about processes and sticking to the rule of law. That is why in the United States today, you have a sitting president whose campaign is being investigated for treason, no less, and the country is still able to move forward. And I want to advise our politicians, if you're going to look at the IEBC as individuals, it is an exercise in futility. You must look at the IEBC in terms of process and rule of law, and that applies to everything in Kenya, where we stop looking even at the presidency as in terms of whether it's Raila or Uhuru. The presidency is enshrined in our constitution. Whether we elected a shoe to that office, we should be confident enough to know that our institutions would work. This is why it's about. It's about building an institution called IEBC. That is why on that ballot paper, on the 17th of October, there'll be 3 people there. There'll be Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, there'll be Raila Odinga, and the IEBC, where the Kenyan people are looking to say that can we trust you with our future in 2022? Can we trust you in 2027? That is the referendum that's going to happen. So let's stop this individual hunting. Okay, because what it's going to lead to is NASA is going to try and put its person there, and Jubilee will try and put its person there. So it's useless. The reality of the matter is let's focus on the process and the rule of law, and let us all, every Kenyan, be accountable to that process and to that law.
Okay. Mike, you agree?
You know, I want to build my case on what Mark Bichachi has just said. I don't know how he read my mind. Sometimes he does. Well, you know, the Deputy President alluded to the fact that every so years, or 5 years to be very specific, there seem to be some huge calls of the officers of IBC or ECK being hounded out of the office. And you know, I like what Hussein did. Hussein followed forth and said, but you remember in 2007 you're part of the very people that actually wanted ECK out. And then, you know, he didn't say much about that, but it was part of it. You know, the reason why there is huge call of these officers to leave their offices is because they've lacked the credibility that is needed to run those offices, 1. And 2, it's because every now and again, after every 5 years, we hear of the scandals in the very, very independent institutions, and nobody goes to court. Nobody arrests them. And so it's just, you know, bickering and making noise, and nobody really caring about what is happening in those real offices. If we if we know that chicken get took place and somebody was actually prosecuted in the United Kingdom, why wouldn't we prosecute somebody in this very country while we know that bribery literally took place and there is evidence the other side? Why couldn't we do that? We know that now somebody is asking about 848 million being used to buy satellite phone, and we still say, well, the very person can still go on without us demanding that this is taxpayers' money. And if it's taxpayers' money, we want to know whether it happened or not. When we know that somebody is saying that my password was used, and it was used to actually interfere with over 9,000 interactions in the computer, and we are not calling for an investigation to take place, we are not calling for heads to roll out, then what we are saying is we want to accept this mediocrity, and it really doesn't matter so long as those people are still there. Who cares whether they're there? The Kenyans really, really care that their votes need to speak for them. And for that to happen again, as we are alluding to here, that, you know, it might not be 100% perfect, you know, let's not set this country for another mediocrity, activity in the, on the 17th of October. Let's set this country to modernize and to change things at IBC for the benefit of this country. Because let me tell you, it is not those people. Those people there are getting millions from wherever they're getting it from, you know, so that they can interfere with the election system. I don't think somebody will interfere with the server if he's not paid for that reason for free. And if they are there to cash on behalf of Kenyans who wake up to change the leaders of this country, then it is sad that they can do that. My point as I conclude is this, Maura. You know, we know what is happening in this country. We know people who've gotten money through false and pretense and stealing in those big offices. And as soon as they die, who enjoys that money? It is actually the lawyers who enjoys that money. I want to tell them that I draw from the Bible. Do not store your treasures here on earth. Because when you store them here, they'll be eaten by moles and rats. You better store them in heaven, and your family and your lineage will be recognized for many, many years. But if you want to do it for today, to defranchise Kenyans, to have Kenyans fired from their jobs because they celebrated about a Supreme Court decision and therefore they're being fired, going back home, not able to feed their family, it is sad if you're going that direction.
Thank you. I hope everyone who needed to hear that has heard. I believe also your other panelists here have heard what you've warned them about storing up wealth, and we'll come back and carry on with this discussion in just a bit. We're also still focusing on the nurses' strike. It's been going on now for over 90 days, and what we know is that the Council of Governors has pledged to sack, or has asked all governors to send show cause letters to nurses and hire their replacements in the course of this week, and sack those who carry on with the strike nevertheless. Let's now get an update from Kisumu County, where Laura Cheng is on standby. Laura, kindly update us. Have you spoken to any of the nurses there? What are they saying to you? In addition, are there any public protests? Are we seeing demonstrations on the streets, etc., bearing in mind the Council of Governors seems ready to ask the governors to sack all nurses?
Yes, thank you very much, Wahiga. And here in Kisumu County, where we are right now, is the county hospital, where our spot check has painted a very grim picture of what is going on inside there. Just 3 days shy of the 100-day mark, the implications of the nurses' strike is being felt very much here in this county, where nursing services are not being offered here at this county hospital, at the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital, which is the largest referral hospital in the Nyanza region. Also, there are no services being offered by the government nurses, and indeed, following the directive by the Council of Governors yesterday, we have been trying to get in touch with the county officials. We have spoken to the County Director of Health, Dr. Onyango, who has told us that the fate of the 790 nurses as it stands right now is in the hands of the County Secretary, who we are trying to get in touch with. He's not picking our calls, but of course we will be speaking to him later on just to see, or rather to hear, what they're going to do following the order to give show cause letters to the nurses. 790 is the total number of nurses here in this county. And of course, we're also talking to the chairperson of the Kenya National Union of Nurses, Kisumu chapter, Dr. Flora Ambani, who told us she's in Nairobi, of course, trying to get directives from their head, Mr. Panyako, of course, and they say that on Wednesday is when they'll be staging demonstrations here in this county, of course, just to cry over the signing of their CBA, which is 40 billion shillings in total. The SRC saying that figure is too high. The nurses saying other civil servants have been given their CBAs have been signed and they're spending. So that is, we'll be standing by here on Wednesdays when we expect the nurses to be staging demonstrations. But as it stands now, we're trying to get the county officials to talk to us concerning the issuing of the show cause letters. But as of now, the nurses are still on boycott. They're saying that they will not budge, that the threat to sack them will not make them cow down. They'll still insist that until their CBA is signed, they shall not resume duty. And indeed, we can confirm that nursing services are not being offered here at the county hospital. Only doctors and other health workers are working hand in hand without any help from any nurses. Wahiga.
Very worrying indeed, Laura Cheng, how long this has dragged on, and that the doctors are having to work with clinicians and other officers because nurses are not available. We certainly hope a quick resolution to this matter will happen. Shortly I'll be giving you another update from Kisumu, but before that, just an update now from Mombasa County, where we know that former Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar is set to hold a press conference. Remember, he recently quit his post in Wiper as a Secretary General, but he did not quite announce where he is going. There's been speculation that he may have chosen to decamp to Jubilee. No confirmation on that, so we are not quite sure what will come out of this press conference or his update that he's expected to give shortly from Mombasa County. But as soon as he is ready to do so, we'll cross over to Mombasa for that. But now, in other news from Kisumu County, girls faced with a threat of female genital mutilation will soon find an ally in a new app developed by 5 Kisumu Girls High School students, the schoolgirls, which earned accolades, or who have earned accolades for the iCut app, which enables would-be FGM victims to tap for help in a country where the practice goes on unabated despite stringent laws. Wilkis Tanyabwa has those details.
The noise from the world outside fades away as the students settle down at the computer laboratory. In this classroom, they enter a world of endless possibilities, connecting with the world through the internet. They are learning from the rest of the world, and they too have made their own contribution already, creating an anti-FGM computer application that earned them a trip to the United States during their August holidays. It all began here, in a computer laboratory at Kisumu Girls High School. The over 20 students split into groups, their fingers flying over the keyboard, conveying their confidence in their skills. It wasn't like this when they began. In 2016, Lake Herb, an organization bringing together individuals who are passionate about technology from around Kisumu, approached girls' schools in the region about getting girls interested in computer coding. Kisumu Girls was one of only 5 schools which were receptive to the idea.
So I thought this is a way of opening them up so that they can also be able to find out those talents within them that they can tap and they can share with the whole world.
Not many students were interested in the 12-week program during which students learned to code software, and when those who participated in the competition presented their application, they were beaten by other regional teams. But in 2017, the girls decided to try again. Fielding 7 teams, their brief was simple.
We were to identify the problems that we have in our environment. So after identifying the problems, we had to create an app.
They had to learn to use a program that introduced them to the basics of computer coding.
I had no coding skills. Initially, I took computer studies as a study that I'll just do up to Form 4, then that's just it.
Well, each group chose a problem they wanted to use their application to resolve, such as waste management. One unique idea caught the teacher's attention, an anti-FGM application. The Kenya Demographic Health Survey shows that FGM prevalence in Kenya among women aged between 15 and 49 stood at 21% in 2014, a drop from 27.1% in 2008. Though the Prohibition of Female Genital Mutilation Act prohibits all forms of FGM with sentences ranging from 3 years to life imprisonment, the practice continues in parts of the country.
Katika shule ya msingi nilikuwa na rafiki ambaye alipata na tatizo ya kupitia ukeketaji, na alikuwa na tatizo kuu sana, na katika hali hiyo nisingeweza kumsaidia na ilibidi aachishwe shule akatize masomo yake.
So we saw that it is a global problem that we can help solve.
And thus, the iCut application was born, the idea to link anyone who wanted to report a case of FGM to an organization in their area that could help.
The app has listed different organizations where the girls can click on and they'll find rescue in those organizations.
Though the idea caught on fast, the students had to overcome several hurdles.
In Kisumu Girls, we don't do anything during class time, so it is usually out of class. And our out of class, like any other place, is not a long time, so it needs a lot of dedication.
During daytime, maybe you come in the morning and you find that there is no internet access. So you are worried. What should I do about this?
All the hard work and sacrifice paid off when the students impressed the judges at the Africa Technovation Challenge.
We heard that we are called as the best in Africa. We are proceeding to the finals in San Francisco. But we never expected it was so. We were surprised about it.
This earning the 5 girls a ticket to pitch their business plan at the Technovation World Pitch Summit hosted by Google in San Francisco, even meeting with President Uhuru Kenyatta before they set off.
Important thing to know, yes. And
I wish you guys all the very best.
Their trip changing everything.
I wanted to do medicine, but now I want to do something to deal with technology.
I'm not the same girl that went to San Francisco and came back.
Though they did not win the top prize, the 5 bagged $1 million, a sum which the school intends to use to expand its activities.
And already we are like, let us try something else. And the something else does not only have to be something that is taking us out of the country, but even within the country, something that others have not tried, that if we tried with our girls, can help the girls.
Father Macrine, one of the 5, has received a scholarship that will enable her to pursue her dreams abroad after high school. And as for the future of the application they created,
there's some organizations which have already reached out to us. They want to partner up with us, and we plan on making it a big thing.
The students plan to unveil an SMS platform for their application that will allow even those in areas with fluctuating network to use it.
The success of these 5 students continues to spur on their classmates so that next year when the competition begins afresh, many more will be signing up to learn how to code and to create mobile applications.
There are many problems to solve yet, and the opportunities for success are endless. Wilkis Anyabo, Citizen TV in Kisumu County.
Well, thank you, Wilkis Anyabo, for that inspiring story. When the Jack Ma was in the country, he spoke about how problems could be a way in which people can innovate, come up with solutions that can help create employment, help them get wealth, and so much more. Very inspiring story there by Wilkis Anyabo. We're also monitoring what is happening at State House, where we know that the president is expected to meet with Kamba leaders, and then a roundtable meeting there with members of KEPSA, Kenya Private Sector Alliance, and thereafter political leaders from Bungoma as well. Those are some of the images that you can see on one side of your screen. But meanwhile in Mombasa, we know that former Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar is expected to address the press. You know that last week he announced that he is quitting Wiper. He was holding the influential position of the Secretary General. He was vying for the gubernatorial position in the just concluded August 8th polls. He lost to the incumbent, Hassan Joho, and he therefore last week announced that he is leaving Wiper Party. As to where he is going to after this, there's been a lot of speculation. Will he join Jubilee? Is he going for further studies? Is he going back to what he was doing in civil society? I guess that could be part of the reason why he has called for this press conference. We're not quite sure. I have Joy Mdivo here in studio, Boyo Widi as well. Joy, what do you expect from Hassan? Any prophecies of what he will talk about?
The man had indicated that he wanted to do personal development.
Okay.
Now that can be interpreted in any manner of ways. But one thing he also said that he wanted to carry on with what he had done before, because of course prior to him joining politics, he was well known for his human rights work as well as being an activist and an agitator of progress. So maybe this is, I doubt he's joining Jubilee. I mean, it would be just mind-boggling if he would make such a switch. But I do imagine maybe he's going to talk about trying to challenge Joho's win. Maybe.
Okay.
That is now prophecy.
That is prophecy. you don't want to be quoted on that later
I cannot
on.
be cross-examined on this.
Okay. Odoyo Widi also joining us here together with Michael Agwanda, who stays with us. Odoyo, what are you expecting from...
I have thought through, and I can't see anything that he would say that is worth calling a press conference for. Unless he's moving. He's not the only one who has lost. We have lost 47 gubernatorial areas with several people. So if he has called a press conference, expect something drastic. Probably he's moving to Jubilee. After all, Jubilee has been hunting all over the place for losers, people who have spent a lot of money and would like to replenish their accounts. So expect that, but I don't fear being wrong. I've been wrong before.
You've been wrong before.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael.
What I have to say about this gentleman is that it's a hard time for him. It's really, really a hard time for him, knowing very well that he went to a race that he was definitely going to lose. He knew it, but he still went through it. As whether he will still trust the democracy within NASA, within a wiper, I have no idea. But I think he's not very happy with NASA, neither is he happy with wiper, and that's why he resigned. As to what he want to say in the next few minutes or so, let's wait and see.
Let's wait and see. That's probably a smart statement to make, so that you're not told later on, you said this, but that hasn't come true. We've also seen images there from State House, where we expect the president to begin a meeting with leaders from the Ukambani region. Thereafter, he's supposed to meet or have a roundtable meeting with members of the KEPSA, Kenya Private Sector Alliance. And after that, leaders from Bungoma, political leaders. And I'll come back to you, Joy. These meetings, seeing what we used to see in the Moi era days, when people from different communities would troop to State House to have such meetings, etc. Their aim, their intention, the strategy, maybe we can talk a bit about that. I can get your view, even as you hear what we expect to see a lot of this happening in the coming days. What's your take on this as a political strategy?
You know, one of the things that Jubilee has been very good at is trying to make inroads where they seem to have been locked out. And I see, because look at the communities that are being approached today. These are perceived to be NASA strongholds. So if you're looking at the leaders in Bungoma, they made some inroads in Bungoma, but this might be an opportunity to try and consolidate that sort of inroad. But also looking at Ukambani, that is sort of trying to break fresh ground, because Ukambani was very solidly in NASA. So like already said, when you're looking at political quote-unquote losers, you have a chance.
That was going to be...
Yes, you have an opportunity where you can drive a wedge and see if you can come away with a little piece. Because in politics, every vote counts. And in 35 days, if you're going back to the polls, you want, like if I was a Jubilee strategist, I would be wanting a more emphatic win than what we saw on August 8th, if what we saw on August 8th was anything to go by.
Okay.
And so what I'm seeing this morning is not just the community is going to look for what can they get, it's also for the president to try and tell them, look, I also need this from you, so how can we work together? Maybe there's some losers who are looking to replenish their bank accounts. That might be a side effect of what happens today.
Although, and I want to reference something that Joy has said. How does the community benefit when a few members said to represent that community go to State House? What are the benefits of that? The community.
They really don't benefit. But you see, State House invites people the community respects. The community want to follow. The community can want to identify with. So that's why they look for key leaders, invite them to State House. And around them back home, there are people who say, you know, so-and-so was there. I think that's where we are all going. There are people that will always follow you wherever you go. Fire, hell, rain, they'll always follow you. Such people, when they are called there, you know you are all heading there. So, but when you look at this, I think the president is going to meet about 3 teams today.
Yes.
The effort with which the president and his deputy are making immediately after the annulment of the elections tells you that they are not certain. Tells you that if they really won at 1.4 the way they did, they wouldn't be putting so much effort for just the next 31 days. This effort tells you they are in a corner.
You think so? You wouldn't say that they are trying to fulfill their pledge that they'll win by 70% plus 1?
No, that's political statement.
No,
we have made them before.
No, but the opposite is also true. It could be that maybe they're actually feeling cornered and they feel that they need to put in more effort to come out of the hole that they find themselves in. But the opposite could be true. It could be that they're actually taking this so seriously that they actually want to make inroads where they did not have. Because you see now they have the benefit of how did people vote? Where did we not do so well? And now they're realizing, oh, this area is locked, you don't have to bother with this area, but we can work hard here. So the opposite is also true. It might be that they have looked at the map and decided, you know what, let's try and hit here, let's try and hit here, these others are already safe. So it might be one of both, and I think it's the latter.
You think it's the latter?
Yes.
Okay. Consolidate what is already your strongholds, but now go out.
Go out after what that which was not yours.
That which was not yours to begin with.
Yes.
Michael.
I want to think totally different from them. We know that the elections were nullified. And I can tell you that some of those people that are calling themselves governors and some of those people calling themselves honorable members of parliament and MCAs were not properly elected as a result of the sham election that took place. And so when you have individuals that are going to State House, some of them are so broke that all they're going to look for is how much they can get into their pockets. And there are already rumors, of former governor of Bungoma going to parliament, now the senator, the Speaker of the Senate, taking a team there, and there are now rumors of how much was given and what they're supposed to do with this. Some of these people, when you take them there, is for their self-interest and not for the interest of the people that are actually elected them. And some of them are actually losers. That means all they're being told is, all we need is your clout. And perhaps what Owiri said is maybe 2 or 3 people that were coalescing around you, that has, occasionally gotten some money from you because you're running, perhaps will follow you. But I can tell you the truth. Some of these people that are elected are the most unpopular place in the areas they come from. And it's evident in every single year that there is an election. I need to
interrupt you because I'm told that press conference in Mombasa is about to start. Former Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar addressing members of the press. His agenda, we're not quite sure. Let's listen in. We expect that he will let the nation know what his next steps are after losing the gubernatorial race to the incumbent Hassan Joho during the August 8th polls. But in addition, we know that last week he also announced that he is resigning from the influential position of Secretary General of WIPA, and we can thus assume that he's also potentially left the NASA coalition, because if you look at what he announced last week, in many ways it seems that he's left NASA and will not potentially be campaigning for the NASA presidential candidate Raila Odinga and moving around with the team, maybe popularizing NASA in Mombasa. But what are his next steps? What is he thinking? What can we expect to hear from him? Is he going back to his human rights activities, the civil service where he came from? Is he going for further studies, as some have alluded to?